there's not a sequel to this movie, I'm gonna be pissed. Holy crap, what is up, everybody? What is going on? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tootin, and welcome to the long-awaited Mortal Kombat movie review. Now, we're gonna have a spoiler section in this video, in this review, you know, to discuss the spoilers and everything major that happened. But we're gonna have our non-spoiler review first, so we can go over the basics, some of the criticisms, you know, without getting too spoilery, and then we'll go far into it at the end of the video. I want to preface this right now. This is not going to be any fancy editing or anything. I am not sponsored by WB. I don't have permission to use clips or anything else, so there's going to be a lot of random images on the screen, hopefully some, you know, screenshots of characters when I'm talking about those characters. But aside from that, there's not going to be any of these or any of those, you know, any fancy editing. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. So I have to start out by saying this movie was more than I expected it to be. Was that because my expectations were low? No, my expectations were set pretty ground level. I mean, they were pretty, you know, level, you know, headed as far as a video game movie goes. I know that this movie probably didn't have the budget of, you know, the past 3 Transformers movies, or the budget of something like, you know, Justice League or something like that. So my expectations were very grounded as far as what they could do as far as special effects, VFX, character design, you know, I almost said level design because I'm thinking of Mortal Kombat, but, you know, space design, where they're at, setting design. So I had my expectations set pretty level-headed. This movie blew my expectations out of the water. Everything from the characters. Yes, there were some characters here and there that were stale, but I had fun watching the movie, which is something that a lot of people did not expect to have while watching this movie. A lot of people said, oh, well, it's a Mortal Kombat movie, it's a video game movie, it's not going to be that good. Well, this movie is proof that with, you know, the right people behind it, the right people acting in the movie, people who care about what they're making a movie about, with people like that behind it, it really does show that video game movies can be exceptional. Are there problems with this movie? Yes, of course. There's actually some pretty glaring problems with this movie. That if it was a standalone movie, it would be a very big problem. But if this movie does well and it branches out, gets sequels, I can see them fixing those problems. I can see where they're going. If you look at the game history, you can see where they're going. But we'll get more in depth with that in the spoiler section of this video. But as far as the characters go, Cole Young being the main character of the story, a lot of reviews that I watched earlier, non-spoiler reviews, said this character was very boring. While he doesn't have the depth of a character like Raiden or like Kano, who was exceptional in this movie, amazing character, or even Jackson Sonya, he was a very good addition to this movie. His backstory is interesting enough. This is no spoiler, but I will give a small spoiler warning here. Cole being the, you know, descendant of Scorpion, that was very interesting to me, to see him carry on the legacy, and especially that end fight, man, that was extremely well done. And you know, it was good. Cole Young, while he's not, you know, the best character, he's definitely not two-dimensional. The actor playing as Cole was amazing as Cole. I really love this character, and that goes for all the characters, really. There was no character from Earthrealm that I did not get attached to, that I was not interested in. They were all done and acted exceptionally well by all of the actors. They were written very well, especially Kano. Kano's kind of like the shining point of the acting and the writing in this movie. He was done so fucking well. But moving on, the problem kind of lies in Outworld, and we'll get to that in more in depth in the spoiler part of the video. But the problem was Outworld. Cabal was an amazing character. I really like the voice actor, love the character style they went with for him. He's not just some silent, you know, speedster. He is a loudmouth. I love, you know, everything about what they did with Cabal. Sub-Zero was another shining point in the movie. Great character. That opening scene gave me chills, no pun intended. That was an amazing opening scene between Scorpion and between Sub-Zero, Bi-Han, and Hanzo. That was an amazing scene. But the problem really lays in with Rico. I don't believe the motherfucker said one word, and Melina, she got lines, but she was kind of wasted. A lot of the characters from the Outworld side of this were very wasted, while the Earthrealm side really got character development, really got interesting stories and everything else. Raiden was... I've seen a lot of people say that they have problems with Raiden, but I like this version of Raiden. Let me get this out of the way real quick. I love the whole Japanese, Chinese, Asian martial arts, Asian culture influence on this movie, where they went realistic with that. They were speaking Chinese and Japanese. Bihan was speaking Chinese. Hanzo was speaking Japanese. Like, I love that. And bringing in Raiden and having an authentic, I'm pretty sure he's Japanese, could be wrong, actor with the accent. I loved it. I loved everything about it. Even Kung Lao and Liu Kang, like, it was just great. I think Ludi Lin, who plays Liu Kang, I think he has an accent, but I don't think Kung Lao does, and he played it very well. Really enjoyed the Asian, culture inspiration behind this and how they stayed authentic to that. Even though they did change the race of Raiden, they still really kept the character traits of Raiden in this movie, and I felt like it was great. He kind of had the attitude that Christopher Lambert's did, and he had the humor that Christopher Lambert's did, while also bringing in some of the elements of Dark Raiden from the game, how he's a little bit more stern instead of forgiving. He was definitely not the MK9 loving, all his forgiving Raiden. He is a stern, get shit done, Dark Raiden, Christopher Lambert mix, and I really enjoyed that about this Raiden. Shang Tsung was also done exceptionally well. I didn't think another actor could portray Shang Tsung the way that Carrie cannot pronounce his last name. I didn't think another actor could portray this character as well as he did. But this actor came very damn close. Did he surpass Carrie? No, he did not. Is he on the same level as Carrie? Almost. I want to give him another movie before I say he's there. But he was a very good actor for Shang Tsung. Great casting for the character. Really loved what the character was doing. Loved the character's writing and everything that he got to do in the movie. Overall, the movie was great. The story, as far as that goes, it's a little disappointing that they strayed away from the, tournament setting that the first game really had set in place. And even, when NRS took over and kind of redid it all in MK9, it still revolved around a tournament. And that is what kicked it all off. I really hate that they kind of moved completely away from that to having Bihan be an assassin, tracking these, contestants down, Earthrealm's champions down. I didn't like that. Some of the bigger fights took place in places I didn't really care for. Like the big Goro fight took place on a farm. The end fight took place in a frozen UFC arena, mixed martial arts arena. And, the coolest fight was, between Cabal and Liu Kang and Cole and Sonya and Melina, and that was, I believe, in Outworld, and that was probably the coolest setting for the fight that they had. I really hate that they strayed away from the tournament setting, but as far as the story goes about Earthrealm's champions being chosen from birth or being chosen by taking another, contender's life and receiving the birthmark, to be a champion from Earthrealm, I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed the fact that Shang Tsung was trying to knock the champions out before they had a chance to compete in the tournament. But I hate that it's the first movie, the prequel really, and we don't get to see the tournament. And I bet they're using the prequel excuse as an excuse not to show the tournament. The tournament's going to be in the second movie, but I feel like the prequel to Mortal Kombat is the tournament. That's what kicks it all off. That is the prequel. This kind of felt like an after tournament setting. Like if you go back to Star Wars, what you're seeing in the first 3 episodes of Star Wars 4, 5, and 6 are because of what happened in the more, contained space 1, 2, and 3, even though, they came out 30 years before each other, which never really made any sense to me. So this kind of feels like after shit goes down. The best thing you can say for Star Wars is episode 4, 5, and 6 is after shit went down in 1, 2, and 3. This feels like after shit went down at a tournament, and of course there have been 9 tournaments before that, but it still doesn't take away from it entirely because it's still the characters, there's still the fighting, and there's still the gore and fatalities. And the combat, the choreography in this movie, the fighting, the gore, the fatalities, I'm not gonna, talk about who or what in the spoiler-free section of this video, but it was all done extremely well. It all looked good. I was seeing moves that I was calling out while I was watching the movie. The one that really caught me by eye was Kung Lao when he was training with Cole. I saw the lightning fists, which is one of my favorite moves in Mortal Kombat to use with Kung Lao because he just mollywops the shit out of someone in like 0.2 seconds, and I love it. I was calling that out, you know, the Liu Kang fireball, of course, and even there were some funny jokes within the combat with Kano and Liu Kang training where he kept doing the leg sweep. Is that the only move you know, mate? And then he fakes it. Kano jumps like you would in the game, and then he hits him with the leg sweep. I loved it. I loved all the references to the game. I loved all of the references they put in and still made it their own thing. This is their own Mortal Kombat, which I think is why I liked it so much, because it's not just another retelling of, you know, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3. It is its own thing, taking these characters, staying true to the characters, but changing the events a little bit. I like to have stuff freshened up. I don't like to see the same thing 30 times, and that's why I was okay before the second movie with them not showing, you know, Ben Parker's death again in Spider-Man and not going over that. I like new stuff. I like people to take the characters that we know, the stories that we know, and put a spin on them. And that's why I like this movie. And with that being said, we're going to come to my, you know, score of the movie. There were a lot of problems with characters. I'm going to get into it fully in the spoiler section. But it's going to be very hard to do a sequel when you killed a lot of your characters, a lot of your main cast characters, and we'll get to that. But that is a major problem. There were a lot of character deaths in this movie, a lot of big character deaths in this movie. Some that make sense, some that were unnecessary in my opinion. Some that didn't need to happen because the character ultimately had more to do. But hopefully we'll see that fleshed out in the sequel, which is why I'm not going to lower the score for that, but that is a problem if it does not get, you know, reconciled in the sequel in some way, shape, or form. And the best way to do that is Revenants, even though I fucking hate the Revenants, and they drove me crazy in MKX and 11. But anyway, my score for the Mortal Kombat movie and the spoiler-free review is an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed this movie. I felt like the runtime was perfect, the settings were great. The only thing I really had a problem with is I wanted that tournament feel, and it just kind of felt like a prequel that happened after a prequel, and that's the best way I can explain it. But a solid 8 out of 10. Love the characters, love the design choices for the characters, love the writing. In some places it wasn't that good, but a solid 8 out of 10. I cannot wait to see the sequel, and I hope it gets made. But now, let's move into the spoiler section. So we covered pretty much everything important in the spoiler-free section of the video. Really the only thing to go over is like the main glaring problem with the movie. And of course, Shang Tsung alludes to it in the end. Death is, you know, not the final front, or whatever the hell he said. I'm pretty sure that's a saying from Star Trek. I don't remember exactly what he said. But a lot of characters were killed in this movie. Reiko got his shit smashed in. Mileena, we saw like a lot of these deaths in the trailer. Mileena, Cabal, Kung Lao took me off guard, but that one actually makes a lot of sense. Mileena, Cabal, Kung Lao, Sub-Zero, that one makes sense. Goro made no sense whatsoever. Just so many character deaths. Natara, that was like the first big death that we saw, and while it was probably the coolest death in the movie because it used a fatality, and then Kung Lao says flawless victory, like it used his fatality that I love to use. I'm pretty sure that one's from like MKX. It might be in 11 as well, but like throwing the bitch on the ground and like chopping her in half with the spinning hat, that shit was sick. I enjoyed that, but I hate that they killed all of these characters who barely got a start. Like I said, Reiko, barely said a word, if he said a word at all, and he gets his head clapped in by Jax. Natara, all she did was screech, and the character design for that character was amazing, and I hate that now the movie is wasting that character too. The game's been wasting the character for 15 years, and now the movie wasted the character after she got 2 scenes, and the character looks so fucking cool. Wasted that character. Kung Lao, it makes sense that he died right there. Cabal, another character that was kind of wasted. He didn't need to die this early on. He was a good character, very interesting, was very intrigued with, you know, how the character was. Hate that they killed him so early. Mileena, of course, she's a clone. You can bring her back, but I don't see what the point in killing her was either. Melina's always had a way of self-preserving throughout the games to, you know, manage to hardly ever die, except for in MKX, and now in 11 she's back. So it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to kill that character. Bi-Han made a ton of sense. If they do a sequel, he's 100% coming back as Noob Saibot, and we're going to see Kuai Liang. So I'm very interested with what they're doing with that. Some of the deaths make a lot of sense, and a lot of the other deaths made no sense whatsoever, and they shouldn't have happened. And that was the main glaring issue with this movie. So many deaths, so little reason, and I only hope that they fix it in the sequel by bringing them back as Revenants, because I would take that, because that is a Mortal Kombat story. There are Revenants. It is annoying, but there are Revenants, and that's one of the best ways to bring the characters back, and they do allude to it at the end. The characters are dead, but not forever, and we will see it come back, which is exactly what I theorized. We will see them come back, and that is exactly what I theorized in, videos talking about the movie leading up to this, because of all the deaths shown off in the trailer. I do think that was just like my major problem with the movie. That, and Reiko, like, some of the characters barely got any lines and they were axed. Cole, a lot of people were saying he was boring. I found him interesting. Of course, in my eyes, I'm lenient, because it's very hard to create a new character in the universe and throw them in with these characters that we've known for 28 years for most of the characters, especially Sonya and Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Raiden, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and, just a few short years later, the rest of the characters that we've seen in the movie, because Mortal Kombat 1, 2, and 3 came out, what was it, 95, 96, 97, or 95, 96, 98, something like that. So we've known these characters for years, so it's very hard to take a new character, create a new interesting character, and throw them in like that. It's very hard. And if you don't believe me, look at the past few Mortal Kombat games. Cetrion is not an interesting character. Kronika is the worst villain we've had ever. And, some of the other characters, Collector, he's literally just a tax collector with 4 arms. Like, they're not that interesting. So even the game is showing how hard it is to introduce these new characters into this universe with all of these interesting characters that we've had for years. But with all of that being said, I still really like Cole. Another thing that really didn't bode too well, but they made it make sense, was I don't know how to pronounce it, but what the Mortal Kombat Dragon Tattoo birthmark, whatever, did, giving people powers. They explained it well enough. It still didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I guess it's one way to explain all of the powers in a kind of grounded universe that they're going for. But overall, it was a little goofy, but they made it make a little bit more sense than it did at the start. Overall, this movie was incredible to me. I gave it an 8 out of 10. My expectations were not at an Avatar level of, production and writing and acting. Even though the acting did hit that level, the production came, as close as they could with the budget they had. I really, really enjoyed what we got, because it's more than what I expected. And a lot of people, it's a hell of a lot more than what other people expected, because people expected this movie and want this movie to fail. And I don't, because it's a very good movie. I think you should stop listening to the other people out there on the internet who are just hating to hate and want the movie to fail, because it's not exactly what they wanted, and they're being babies about it, because this is a very, very good movie. I will be seeing it again. I will be buying it on Blu-ray. Like, the movie was just incredible, and I hope you guys check it out. I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'm a huge fan of Mortal Kombat. I know a lot about the lore, and I know this changes a lot, but I think it does it in a very good way. Like I said, there's some glaring problems, but I think they can be ironed out in a sequel. With Revenants. That's really the main way to fix the main problem. And I'd like to see a tournament in the second movie, but we'll get there. We'll talk about that when it gets here. Hopefully it gets here. Hopefully this movie does well enough. But I want you guys to let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about it, and I'd love to have a conversation about it. So let me know what you guys think. My name is Tootin. I've been your host. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more reviews, for more everything Mortal Kombat like this. But with that being said, I'll see you guys next time. I'm gonna go play some fucking Mortal Kombat. Peace out.